So who's ready to get a free Postscriptum key? I know I am. Let's give it a whirl. Gavin Russell, you are the first one to get a key. Let's go ahead and move on to the next one. Round the wheel we go. Let's try again, huh? Waffle Bunny 123. Alright, and on to the final one. Alright, who wants the last key? You know you want it. Let's take a spin at it. Patrick Lee's 240. You guys are the winners. Be sure to contact me as much as possible so that I can get you your keys. Do it through Discord, through Twitter. Be sure to, let me know where you are. Let's get into the video. It's not often that World War II developers include a faction like the French. I mean, here in the US, it's generally perceived as a country that just gave up and raised the white flag. They didn't even put up a fight, but that's not actually true. There's actually quite a bit of factors that led the French to its eventual downfall. The French at the time were still reeling after World War I. I mean, the mindsets of the French were basically like, World War I was the war to end all wars, that finally we were at peace and there would be no more wars, or none so significant that would involve the entire world. Because of this, a lot of really good generals for the French decided to retire because they figured, that's it, no more wars. I never thought I'd live to see this day. France saw major cutbacks in military spending. The reason why the military was cut was because a majority of the world was experiencing the Great Depression. France's economy was experiencing a downfall after World War I, so the people decided to cut military spending so that they could get that back on track. But while France was experiencing a downfall, Germany was on the rise. When it came down to the fighting, the French just were not prepared for the Blitzkrieg. I mean, the Maginot Line was very impressive, but the problem is that the Germans just went around it. I mean, the reason why the French didn't just build the Maginot Line all the way to the sea was because there were two friendly allied nations right there, and building that in front of them would make it look bad, or at least that's their mindset at the time. I mean, theoretically, the French should have won that battle because they had more troops, they had better tanks, they had better supplies, but due to the quickness awareness of the German army and air power. Germany had the philosophy of wanting to win, whereas France did not want to fight, but they were kind of just forced into it. Germany also had the technology edge too, because they had radios. The Germans could contact their troops and tell them where the French positions are, so France just could not match them. But that's not to say that the French didn't put up one hell of a fight, because they sure did. The Germans fighting the French was a very costly battle for the Germans. For every one plane that the Germans shot down, the French shot down 2. The French killed more tanks than the Germans did, and more casualties were racking up on the German side than the French. But history looks at them in a different light. The French did put up one hell of a fight, but history looks at them as the losers. But at least they went down kicking and screaming. It's such a shame that the French aren't featured in more games, because they are heroes. They tried their damnedest to hold back the Nazi threat, but ultimately failed. I mean, that's just how it is. That's just the sad reality. You can fight for a noble cause, but if you lose, history just looks at you as the loser, and it tries to hide the things that you tried to do, even if it is fighting for a noble cause, usually. Now, I gotta say, I'm not the greatest when it comes to history. I'm pretty sure I glossed over a bunch of stuff, but I think I gave you the gist of it. I'm sure there's a lot more to talk about with that. The point is, I haven't really seen a game that featured the French before. I mean, unless you're talking about like a World War I game, it's so rare that we see French featured in anything. Like, usually it's the US or Germany or Britain. It'd be cool if we could get a little more maybe Italians or Japanese. I mean, Poland is in the game, but Poland doesn't look unique. It just straight looks like British. Kind of makes me wonder who else they're gonna, you know, bring into the fray. Like, you also got the Canadians, and you know what would be interesting? Like, seeing the Mexicans or Africans. That could be cool just to see a variety of, you know, of factions there. Factions that are almost never mentioned in a World War II game. But yeah, along with this update, there are going to be a bunch of stuff that comes with it. So let's go check out their devblog to see what's going on. Chapter 2 Devblog Stone. Plan Jaune is a French translation of Fall Gelb, Case Yellow, an offensive operation that consisted of armored forces of Germany pushing through the Ardennes to encircle and cut off the British and French troops, a war plan that had dramatic repercussions in the Battle of France in 1940. This is a historical battleground that you will soon be a part of in Postscriptum. Plan Jaune will bring you 3 maps, one of them coming after launch. The French Army and the Wehrmacht 1940 version, along with countless new vehicles and weapons. One of the 2 new maps that you will be getting with the launch of Chapter 2 is a small village called Stone, located around 40 kilometers south of the Ardennes. Oh, that's an interesting looking map. I really like the urban fighting. I don't like fighting too much out in the fields, if I'm being honest. The village of Stone became famously known by how dangerous the French Char B1 tank was in combat. One man made a name for himself, Captain Pierre Billot, I'm gonna butcher these names, sorry about that, who commanded the thickly armored Yuri? Oh, these names, man. Which sustained several attacks of the German offensive during May of 1940. The tank destroyed 13 German tanks of the Panzer III and IV variant, as well as taking over 140 hits from the German tanks and anti-tank guns, and surviving the battle. The town itself exchanged hands between the French and Germans 17 times? God damn. During the 2 days of the struggle for control of the city. Jesus. It must have been one. God damn, look at that fighting. Stone itself is composed of a destroyed village in the center, large open fields for armored advantage, and rolling hills to provide important strategic points for infantry forces. As it is quite often the case in Postscriptum, combined arms and coordination will be key for one of the teams to prevail. And then it talks about the French faction. France is a faction with historical outfits, equipment, and vehicles of the time period. The French infantry uniform looks much like you'd expect a soldier from the early war period to look like, wearing World War I trench coats and bulky and cumbersome rucksacks. There are plenty of unique looking weapons that are under their disposal, such as the Lebel and Berthier and Mass 36 rifles, Mass 38 submachine guns, and submachine guns like the Chachet and Mac 24. Man, I really butchered these freaking names. Oh my god. They also show off the French officer that is holding a Mass 38 machine gun pistol and a revolver. It can't be a French officer without the freaking that hat, the straight up hat. I'm not sure what you call it. Kepi? I think that's how you say it. If anyone's French and wants to correct me, let me know down below. With the French faction also comes weapons and equipment, including, but certainly not limited to, the Chachet Level, Mass 36, Mass 38, Berthier, Boys anti-tank rifle, revolver Model 1892, Model 1938, Model 1935A, pistol, Model 1935, and 1936 mines, F1 grenades, and much more. So they have a video of, I think like 4 weapons weapons? Let's take a look at that. Holy shit. Pretty cool, pretty cool. The French had unusual designs for vehicles. Yeah, and unusual weapon designs. Like the Lafley truck, which has multiple variants like the W15 TCC, which was a hastily built anti-tank vehicle mounting a 47mm anti-tank gun facing backwards on the bed of its truck. Yeah, that's an interesting design because, I mean, it's not uncommon to see that sort of thing because I think the Americans also had like a vehicle with like an anti-tank on the back of their vehicles. But you know, it's interesting. You can expect to see new tanks such as the Renant R35, the Hotchkiss H35, Soma S35, and of course the famous Char B1 Many French tanks were designed only to carry 2 or 3 crew members. This means that vehicles like the Char B1, the driver will also be the gunner of the whole gun. Oh, thank goodness, because that's one thing that I dislike about Postscriptum is that the driver kind of just like sits there and doesn't do anything until, you know, the gunners ask them to move. So I'm kind of glad that there's a tank this finally allows the driver to be a gunner, while the turret gunner is also the commander. So that's some interesting looking tanks. So I'm guessing that the Char B1 is the heaviest tank that the French have at the timing of this fight. I heard that the armor was basically impenetrable by, you know, any tank that the Germans had at the time, the front armor anyway. I think it also has like a big cannon in the front. Like, I didn't see it shoot, but I wonder if that big cannon in the front can take out bigger targets. Just curious. The Hotchkiss is like the Stewart, I guess, and these other 2 vehicles are most like the German vehicles that they had, like the scout cars basically. So this is a cool update. Again, it's not often that I see World War II developers including a faction like the French, because the French are generally looked at as like the people that lost. They always look at the losing part, which like basically undermines their whole history of them actually trying to put up one hell of a fight before they went down. So I really like that these are here, and I hope they add more factions that have been unheard of or unsung heroes basically. And yeah, so what are your thoughts? Are you someone that's gonna try it out? Because I know I will. Vive la France, baby. What are your thoughts on this update? Let me know down in the comments below. If you're someone that's new to my channel, be sure to subscribe and ding the bell, you know, stick around a little. If you're a regular, be sure to like and share, because YouTube has been kicking my ass. And if you really like my content, consider supporting me on Patreon. Just send me $2 a month. And with that all being said, I want to thank everybody for coming out to watch, and I guess I'll catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.